Here is a team of professionals ready to work. In this example, we have 5 team members who constitute what is called a working party. All members are called persons, and the leader is called the Ørsted Trained Competent Person. In addition to that, there will always be a senior authorized person or authorized person. The senior authorized person or authorized person is responsible for providing safety from the system before any work commences. Before the working party can enter the designated work area and begin the work, the senior authorized person or authorized person will issue a safety document on the identified equipment detailing the safety precautions taken to ensure safety from the system. The Ørsted Trained Competent Person then controls the working party while the work is going on. All persons in the working party refer to the Ørsted Trained Competent Person on safety matters, and only the Ørsted Trained Competent Person. It is the Ørsted Trained Competent Person's job to talk to the senior authorized person or authorized person if necessary. So this is the general picture. You can see that the Ørsted Trained Competent Person is a key figure with the job of managing the working party during work, plus the duty to communicate closely with the senior authorized person or authorized person in order to maintain a high level of safety from the system.
Click Next to continue.
The 3 levels of authorization have The 3 levels of authorization have specific roles and responsibilities, but also a common set of duties. It is the duty of all persons concerned with working on the system to make themselves thoroughly familiar with the Ørsted electrical safety rules and appropriate supporting documentation relevant to their authorization. In addition, all persons must be conversant with and observe statutory requirements relating to any activity they're involved in. Every employer, contractor or subcontractor shall ensure reasonable care for the health, safety and welfare of themselves and other personnel who may be affected by their acts or omissions at work. If an employee fails to observe the Ørsted electrical safety rules for any reason, or if the employee unnecessarily endangers the personal safety of themselves or others, the employee will be liable to disciplinary action and even prosecution. Note that you must comply with procedures issued by Ørsted or other authorities.
Click Next to continue.
So, how do we define a person? First of all, a person is nominated by the person's company and must possess sufficient technical knowledge and experience that enables the person to avoid danger. This person must pass the Ørsted Trained Person's training exam and must also have completed an induction that is appropriate for the site. The Ørsted Trained Person must work safely as a member of a working party under the control and supervision of an Ørsted Trained Competent Person. The Ørsted Trained Person must act according to the Ørsted electrical safety rules when these apply, and must also maintain general safety at all times. We need to know who is working on what at all times, so all persons must register themselves on the Working Party Register, managed by the Ørsted Trained Competent Person. Naturally, all persons must be able to avoid any danger to themselves or to colleagues. If a hazard arises or is suspected during the course of work and could give rise to danger, the work shall cease. All persons shall withdraw from the equipment concerned, and the situation shall be reported immediately. So, a person shall stop work immediately if a hazard is identified, and inform the Ørsted Trained Competent Person in charge of the working party, who will, in turn, contact the Senior Authorised Person or Authorised Person. This includes abnormal conditions. For example, when an Ørsted Trained Competent Person in charge of the work does not turn up.
Click Next to continue.
Now, let's talk about the Ørsted Trained Competent Person. An Ørsted Trained Competent Person has all the responsibilities of a person plus some additional ones. Just like the Ørsted Trained Person we just discussed, the Ørsted Trained Competent Person must possess sufficient technical knowledge and experience to avoid danger. The Ørsted Trained Competent Person must be officially appointed by his employer or the site management, and only foremen and supervisors are allowed to become Ørsted Trained Competent Persons. An Ørsted Trained Competent Person is trained and certified so that the Ørsted Trained Competent Person can undertake the responsibility for a working party with respect to the Ørsted electrical safety rules. This means that the Ørsted Trained Competent Person must pass the Ørsted Trained Competent Person training exam. The Ørsted Trained Competent Person has some important duties, including the receipt and clearance of the safety document. What is a safety document, you might ask? A safety document will be issued for all tasks carried out where the Ørsted electrical safety rules apply. The safety document will be issued by the Senior Authorised Person or Authorised Person and must be received and fully understood by the Ørsted Trained Competent Person. When work is complete, the Ørsted Trained Competent Person is responsible for clearing the safety document. That can only be done when the designated work area has been made safe and the working party has been withdrawn from the site. The Ørsted Trained Competent Person also controls the working party. This means that during the performance of a specific task, everyone else reports to the Ørsted Trained Competent Person. In a case when the Senior Authorised Person or Authorised Person is a member of the working party, the Senior Authorised Person or Authorised Person also reports to the Ørsted Trained Competent Person in charge once the safety document is issued and the specified work is underway. The Ørsted Trained Competent Person also manages the working party register, can forward a work request, must establish general safety, and handle certain abnormal situations that can arise. General safety includes taking the general precautions necessary to make work safe. For instance, ensuring correct use of tools, equipment, and personal protection. General safety is established by the Ørsted Trained Competent Person prior to the start of work and is maintained by all members of the working party while work is underway. The members also ensure that other work areas are not adversely affected by their activities.
Click Next to continue.
When an Ørsted-trained competent person has received a safety document and is in charge of a working party, the Ørsted-trained competent person must be able to explain the contents of the safety document in detail to all members of the working party. Naturally, the Ørsted-trained competent person must adhere to all instructions, conditions, and limitations specified on the safety document, and make sure that everyone else on the working party does so as well. The Ørsted-trained competent person must keep the safety document, associated documents, and keys in safe custody. During work, the Ørsted-trained competent person must also provide regular supervision for working party members, unless re-specified by the senior authorised person or authorised person.
Click Next to continue.
The Ørsted-trained competent person must withdraw all members of the working party if a danger or hazard arises or is suspected. The Ørsted-trained competent person must then immediately report to the senior authorised person or authorised person. All work must be stopped until danger is cleared. The Ørsted-trained competent person must ensure that only the work specified on the safety document is undertaken. In the event that additional work is required, the Ørsted-trained competent person must contact the senior authorised person or authorised person to obtain a new safety document. It is also the duty of the Ørsted-trained competent person to make sure that all members of the working party sign on and off the working party register. If any additional persons arrive later, they must be made aware of and understand the contents of the safety document before signing on. The Ørsted-trained competent person can only clear a safety document after all persons working under the document have been informed to stop work, when all tools, equipment, and loose material have been removed, when guards and access doors have been replaced, and when any other appropriate exceptions have been reported to the senior authorised person or authorised person, and detailed in the clearance section of the safety document. The Ørsted-trained competent person must also account for all keys, documents, and other items issued with the safety document.
Click Next to continue.
It is important to remember that all safety documents are personally issued and must be personally retained by the recipient. The Ørsted-trained competent person can, under no circumstances, transfer it to others. If the Ørsted-trained competent person needs to leave the work location, even for a short time, all work activities must cease, and the working party must be informed to stop all work and leave the work area until the Ørsted-trained competent person returns. Ørsted electrical safety rules are not just high-voltage rules. They apply to high-voltage systems as well as low-voltage systems and mechanical equipment.
Click Next to continue.
To sum up, the duties of an Ørsted-trained competent person are to keep everybody in the working party safe during the length of the task, to understand the responsibilities of the position before, during and after the task, to understand, accept and clear the safety document, to manage the working party register and the people who are members of the working party.
Click Next to continue.
The senior authorised person is a person appointed in writing by the Ørsted Authorising Committee. The senior authorised person must possess sufficient technical knowledge and experience to recognise and avoid danger. The senior authorised person or authorised person are the only persons who can release high voltage equipment for work or testing and are responsible for providing safety from the system. This means that the senior authorised person or authorised person must ensure that any inherent dangers in the system cannot do any harm to the working party. This includes establishing points of isolation and earthing as necessary, proving equipment de-energized with an approved voltage measuring device, and establishing demarcation of the designated work zones where it is safe for the working party. By issuing and cancelling safety documents, the senior authorised person or authorised person controls the instructions for the Ørsted-trained competent person in charge of the working party. The safety document is like a permission to work. No work can be carried out until that document is properly issued to the Ørsted-trained competent person.
Click Next to continue.
It is important that everybody fully understands the details when it comes to safety at work. If you have any questions or objections to the instructions under Ørsted Electrical Safety Rules, you must direct those to the person giving those instructions, or speak to a senior authorised person or authorised person.
Click Next to continue.